In this video, we are going to start understanding what polynomials are, and we're going to go over a lot of definitions. So I want you guys to take your time and like kind of understand and memorize these definitions as much as possible. So first they're telling us about a constant, and I want you guys to think of a constant as a number. So constant is actually a real number. So that's another name for like a real number. Okay, so any number that you know of is called a constant, and it's called a constant because it doesn't vary, so it doesn't change. All right, and they are telling us why that has degree 0, so you will know more about it as we go. So first of all, we need to start defining monomial. So a monomial is a real number. So basically a constant could be like 3, could be like a decimal, 0.5. It could be a fraction. So these are examples of monomials, but it could also be a variable. So we can choose x, or we can choose y, or it could also be the multiplication of a real number and one or more variables. So each one of these is an example of what is called a monomial, but also we could have multiplication of those. For example, 3x will be also a monomial. And I can take this x twice and say that also 3x to the second power is also a monomial. And by the way, my numbers can also be negative. So I could have a monomial that is like negative 3x to the second power times y. So any one of those is an example of what is called a monomial. All right. So as you can tell, sometimes monomials don't have variables, and well, they always have numbers, because here there is a 1 and here there is a 1, but they could be without variables. They could have a more than one variable. The important thing is that their exponents have to be whole numbers. So please remember, the whole numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. All right, so an example of something that is not. So these are like monomials, but if you had like 3x to the negative 2, because this number is not a whole number, so this will not be a monomial, okay? Not a monomial. That is very important. So if you change that exponent not to be a whole number, then the what you have here will not be a monomial. Now, how to find the degree of a monomial? Well, it's the sum of the exponents of the variables. Now, what if there is only one? Like, for example, right here. So right here, I got only one variable, and the only exponent that I know is there is 1. So this will be a monomial of degree 1. So degree, that's what is called the degree. Basically, if there is only one variable, that will be the exponent of the variable. But if you have more than one, like in here, then this one has exponent 1. So the degree of this monomial will be 2 plus 1, which is 3. Degree 2 plus 1, which is 3. So that's what it's saying here, is the sum of the exponents if there is more than one. If there is only one, you will bring down that exponent as the degree of the monomial. Okay, so that is key to understand what the next part is. Okay, so let's continue here. So the variable in the monomial 15x to the second power has an exponent of 2, and that is the degree. The degree of this monomial is 2. So here you don't have to add because there is only one exponent. But what if you had more than one variable? So then you will add those two numbers in red, 5 plus 2 to get 7. You would say degree is 7. So back to the question about a constant. So what about 7? Well, wait a second, because I know that 7, I can write it as 7 2 times x to the 0 power. We know that this equals 1. So in this case, I can see, like in here, there is a variable and the exponent of that variable is 0. So that's why we choose 0 to be the degree of a constant of a number. Okay, so that is on the one hand. So let's check the second part of this example. And in here, we'll continue introducing more vocab words. These are like posted in the lesson, but I want to go over and make it clear for you guys. So this is called a cubic binomial. Once again, you'll learn more as we go. But why is that the case? We'll see. A polynomial, first of all, it could be a monomial. So let me just do like a monomial here. So now we know what a monomial is. So this is a monomial. So this will be an example of a polynomial. But it could also be the sum, and remember adding, plus, or the difference, so subtracting two or more monomials. So I could have something like maybe plus 1/2 x to the third power. Notice the exponent is a whole number. I don't care about this number. This number here can be any number, any real number, but the exponents need to be whole numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And then we could have minus 0.5 x to the second power, maybe. So this is like a combination or sum. Here is sum, or here is difference right there. So subtraction. And the whole thing here will be an example of a polynomial. Basically, poly is a prefix that means more than one, but sometimes, we can have only one also, right? So it's probably better to think of one or more. So how do you calculate the degree of a polynomial? Well, if you already know how to calculate the degree of a monomial, this is easy because you calculate the degree of each monomial. So by now you know that a polynomial is made up of monomials, right? Each one of those monomials now receive the name of terms. So there is 1, 2, and 3 monomials. That means there is 1, 2, and 3 terms in this polynomial. So terms and monomial are pretty much the same, all right? So of course we can classify these polynomials according to the degree, but what is the degree right here? The degree, let's talk about degree. We already know the degree of this monomial is 4, the degree of this monomial is 3, and the degree of this monomial is 2. So what is it that which one of those do we take as the degree of the whole polynomial? Well, we take the greatest, okay? That's what is called the greatest degree. So we say that this polynomial here, the whole thing, has degree 4, okay? Because this is the greatest degree. And now it's probably, we're going to think of a line here, linear line. So a line has one dimension, only length. And for quadratic, we're going to think of a square. This square has 2 dimensions, so it has length and it has width, so it has 2 dimensions. And a cube is got 3 dimensions. So now we're talking about length, we're talking about width, and we're talking about height. So there are 3 dimensions here. So that's why you see that when there is 1 degree, so the degree of a polynomial, like this one right here, if degree is 1, we call it linear, all right? Linear. And if it is degree 2, such as this one here, then we call it quadratic. Those of you who speak Spanish, this is cuadrado. So quadratic, cuadrado. So hopefully you make the relationship right there. And if it is degree 3, like in this case, x to the second power times y. Remember, we add the exponents, so 2 plus 1 is 3. So the degree of this polynomial is 3. Then we call it cubic because the cube has 3 dimensions. All right. And from there on, we just don't have special names. We just call it 4th degree or 5th degree or 6th degree. They don't take any special names, or people don't usually use any particular names for those, right? So let's do the last part so that this video is not excessively long. And polynomials can also be uh, classified by the number of terms. So now I want you guys thinking of, I'm not very good at drawing, but when you go to the circles and you see like a guy seated in one of these, and imagine the guy is seated here and driving one of those, since there is only one cycle right here, this is called monocycle. Monocycle. All right, monocycle. It is one cycle. But if you're thinking of maybe the regular bicycle, so now you've got two of those, two cycles, two cycles. So this one is a, now I don't even know how to put the person there, but imagine that the person is going in that bicycle. It's two cycles. So bicycle. I'm not so sure, to be honest. Well, maybe it's bicycle, the spelling, but I want you guys to think of two cycles. And then of course, if it has three, I don't know, let's put it this way. So you call that a tricycle, which means 3 cycles. So I want you guys to use those to remember these prefixes here. Mono is only one term, bi means 2, and tri means 3. If it is 4, then it is not going to receive a special name. It's going to be a polynomial of 4 terms, a polynomial of 5 terms, and so on and so forth. So only the first 3 receive special name, right? So this one, how many monomials or terms? Only 1. So that is a monomial. This one has 2, so that is a binomial. This one has 3, so this is trinomial. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a polynomial of with 4 terms. Okay, so I'm trying to kind of making this not so hard, not so long. So the next thing I'm gonna ask you is please write this down in your notebook and try to guess according to the degree and the number of terms. So there will be 2 names. First, you look at the degree and think about the name. Then you look at how many terms, and then you think of the name. And pause the video, and when you're ready, I want to ask you to please check your answer, okay? So please be ready to, don't look at the answer before you try it. Thank you. So cubic monomial. Notice that the word that we has to do with the degree goes first, and then the number of terms. And the other one, you can always check the answer here. It's a quadratic trinomial because